Hi, I'm Gary, welcome to my channel. Today I'm looking at the Vought Corsair Mk.II in 1/48 scale by Magic Factory. This is the third release of the Corsair from Magic Factory, the first being the US Navy's F4U pair in 2023. Now if you like the video, please remember to let YouTube know by subscribing to the channel, by giving the video the Imperial thumbs up and by hitting the notification bell. All of these are free and a great way to show your support. So let's make a start at looking at this release by checking out the box it comes in. So here we go, the Magic Factory Fleet Air Arm, Royal Navy Fleet Air Arm Corsair Mk.II in 1/48 scale. Quite a lovely dramatic piece of box art here. The things I would argue with are that hook connecting with the thing in mid-air. I mean, no, that ain't happening. It just is not happening. That connected right down there on the pretty close to the damn deck. No, that's not how you land a Corsair. Certainly not a Fleet Air Arm one. What is nice though is it has got the clipped wingtip. The American ones had the rounded wingtip. The Fleet Air Arm one had a clipped wingtip so that they could fit within our aircraft carriers. It certainly actually made the handling on the approach slightly better because it made the spilling of the wingtip vortex here a bit more predictable than the completely rounded one did. But that's by the by, a small benefit really. As you can see, everything's down, wheels down, all the doors open, all the flaps down. I suspect certainly at the time of the sea fire that a lot of people would have opened up the hood to land on the deck, because if anything went wrong then they didn't have to try and get the hood open, they could just hop straight out. So I would have thought the hood would be open. People may tell me otherwise, but I think the hood should be open. But anyway, there we go. Other than that, it's a beautiful image, a nice image of landing on a wet deck with the chap here, the landing officer, giving him the signals, which is quite accurate, I guess. These are some CAD images of the kit as you can make it. You can make open or folded wings. For example, you can open up the wings to show some of the inner workings, guns and stuff. You can have the cockpit open, there's photo etch for the cockpit, and you can even take off the whole of the front of assembly there if you want to have the engine exposed. Don't know how accurate that is. Probably would have opened up a few panels and left the propeller on there, but there we go. You can do all of this sort of stuff. There's a decal sheet, there's a paint mask set, and there's a small sheet of photo etch, largely for the straps there. Okay. On this side, there's a brief history of the Corsair in, I guess, Japanese. I don't know whether Japanese or Chinese. Actually, it doesn't look like Japanese. It looks like Chinese to me. And then in English as well. And two schemes, one for 738 Squadron, Fleet Air Arm, and another one for 47th Naval Fighter Wing. Would have thought that would have had attached a squadron as well. Anyway, a Royal Marines commander, the Major Ronald Hay, which I think is very cool. People forget that Royal Marine officers could transfer to the Fleet Air Arm and still kept their rank. One of 800 squadrons more famous commanders, Birdie Partridge, was a Royal Marine indeed and had Royal Marine rank. So anyway, that's all very nice. Let's have a look at what we get inside the box for our money. Okay, so top opening lid, as you can see here, very useful. And then inside we have the parts, lots of frames, each frame having its own cellophane bag, which is kind of bizarre, but there we go. It's a bit wasteful, not exactly great for the planet, but anyway, why they use bags, it's in case anything comes off the frame and you can still catch it in the bag. There's a huge sheet here with the decal layout and the marking layout. I mean, it's very large, bigger than almost A2 or something, which seems a quite strange size, unless of course you're going to pin it on your wall and use it as reference from there. And then there's the instruction booklet here. There's the decals and the masking sheet, paint masking sheet, and the photo etch. But we'll have a look at all these different bits and pieces in a little more detail. Okay, so here we have frame A, engine, wing fold sections, bits of the underside of the aircraft, wheels, undercarriage. Interestingly, the tail hook is here and it can be up or down, which is a nice touch. Just sort of bits and pieces around the wings really, but undercarriage, engines, main thing. Frame B, slightly self-evidently the two halves of the fuselage. These are the tailplanes and elevators, I believe, as well. And bits of the, oh, that's the rudder. Bits of the exterior as well, of the fuselage. Frame C has the upper and lower parts of the wings if you're doing the wing fold sections. So that's the centre sections, and then these are the bits that fold upwards, and flaps as well here. Frame D, we have more flap surfaces, and we have the guns and the gun bays if you're going to do the open panels on the wings to show the machine guns, the 50 cal machine guns. Main spar of the wing, really nice. That's going to help beautifully keep everything in the right place. Frame E has mainly the wing fold section, so the interior bits of the wing that are revealed with the folding, some of the folding mechanism. But here, usefully, the main spar in its folded configuration, which would be superb for helping set the angle of the wings. Really nice touch, that. I like that a lot. Then we have the wings, upper and lower parts of the wings, and the flaps, etc., for an aircraft that's not got its wings folded. So the way I'm going to do it, so single pieces makes it a lot easier to keep this lovely gull wing shape in one piece. Frame G, we have the parts of the engine surround. I guess this might be part of the interior because they look like rudder pedals, dangling rudder pedals. Bulkheads, the propeller comes as single individual blades that you have to assemble. Parts of the interior here, parts of the interior here as well. External store, so fuel tank and bomb parts. Tiny little bits here like the throttle quadrant and even the accelerator hooks here that go on the underside, so you can use the catapults, which in those days were called accelerators. So that's frame G. Okay, you have frame K, which are the instrument panels. There's a blank one and there's a moulded one, so you can either use the moulded one and set things down on there with there's a decal for the instrument panel, so you can either use it on either, or you could dry brush this one and paint it yourself. Frame L contains things like the ailerons for this version of the aircraft, and then there's another frame here, a little subframe, which holds the engine cowling. Then finally there's frame J, which has all the transparencies, windshield, canopy, gun sight, reflector gun sight shield, and also it's probably armour glass as well. Other like light covers and wingtip ID light covers. If we have a look at the plastic, the thing that strikes me is how sharp the moulding is. How absolutely razor sharp these bits are. How, these little bits that stick up here on the flaps are just so beautifully and carefully moulded. Let's get this to focus for a second. Thank you. Yeah, you can see here, everything here is just so sharp. All these angles here are so sharply defined. It's really nice. Really nice. I think the moulding looks spectacular. Are the rivets a bit too highly sunk? Maybe. Maybe so. But you know what? I think that's a good thing because we can dirty them up a little bit more easily if they're a little bit more sunk. Because this is the underside, of course. The same with the top side of the wings. You can see very, very prominent rivets and prominent panel lines. But I'm not an enemy of that. You know, oh, I love all this strengthening here. That's really nice. I'm not an enemy of that as such, because it just makes life easier when you're going to come to put in some weathering and some highlighting. I think also because we're going to be using greys and dark greens, you know, slates and whatever, I think it will suit it that way. I really do. And if we look at some of the smaller parts, bits of the cockpit, all that, absolutely lovely. These parts are intriguing. The air inlets on the front of the wings, beautifully moulded, very deep mouldings, really nice. Other parts of it, I think that's part of the wing fold, very delicate as well. Oxygen bottles, I'm guessing, a little flare gun sitting there. The controls, the engine controls, throttle and probably auto pitch, throttle and mixture maybe. Bits and pieces here. Look at these tiny spools for the accelerator, hooks for the accelerator rather. Really nice. Side panels, as I say, I don't think we need to use the decals on these. I think we'll dry brush them, they'll look a lot better. But the moulding is just so tight. Again, let me show you. It's like 0.5 millimeter pencil lead. Look at these switches. You can tell which way the switches are. Really nice. Loving it. You do get a paint mask set here. This is masking for exterior only of the windscreen canopy, the wheels front and back, and these two here are for the bulletproof glass, which is also the glass onto which the reflector gun sight project. The other transparencies, so the one underneath the fuselage should have a little one. It doesn't have. You have to cut your own one for the window under the fuselage, which is slightly odd. And also there's none for the ID lights, which I'm surprised at. So maybe you put those on a lot later on or something. I'm not sure. But anyway, those are the ones you do get. And you also get this tiny little sheet of photo etch, most of which is to do with the straps and the seat. Actually, in regards to the sticker not having the little window in it, it might be because this is for the F4U1A Corsair, which is a different code number. It may be that this is actually the wrong masking sheet for this model. I'm not sure, but that's gonna be my guess. Okay. The decal sheet here is printed by Cartograph, which is excellent, which means that the colours are absolutely glowing and rich. The red's lovely, the blue's great, the yellows in particular really stand out. These are yellows that you're going to put on the bomb, obviously. The reds are very nicely printed. Everything looks sharp, even from this distance. We'll have a closer look in a moment. But everything looks absolutely crystal sharp at the moment. Whether or not you do the wingtips yourself or whether you use those is entirely up to you, of course. I tend to paint them myself, but you don't have to, obviously. But lovely set of decals. Great colour, screen printed, so the colours are absolutely vibrant, let's say. And here we have the instrument panel. This pencil lead here is 0.5 millimeters. You can see the printing's actually pretty fine, pretty small. There's no reason why you wouldn't use this really, unless you want to really spend a long time working on a hand-painted cockpit instrument, in which case you might as well get an aftermarket and do it properly, I guess. That's going to look fine. These side panels, I'm more inclined with these to paint them and then just brush paint to pick out these white switches and also give a bit of texture to the interiors. The markings for the propeller manufacturer are absolutely beautiful, lovely and sharp, lovely colour. You can see the sort of, I don't even know how thin these are. They're just over 0.5 millimetre tall, so they're going to be really, really, really thin and very, very sharply printed. Likewise down here, the red, not a great colour to try and get right, absolutely spot on. As I say, this is the benefit of using cartograph. The colours here are lovely as well. Okay, so here we have the instruction booklet for the FACTORY Corsair, with the side view of the two schemes included here. It's in black and white, but you know what, it's not the end of the world. It's, I guess you'd probably rather they spent money on the model than on a really glitzy one of these, unless there's a very good reason, like in Wingnut Wings. The kits really need some really good explanations. Here, yeah, maybe not so. Okay, so in here we have a history of the Corsair and a story, the story of Ronald Hay, the only Royal Marines fighter ace, who was a pilot on 801, 809 squadrons as well. He flew 801. He flew with in skewers. 809, I believe, he flew Fulmars, the ferry Fulmar, and then he went on to fly the Corsair and was the leader of 49th Naval Fighter Wing, which would have been 2 or more squadrons form a wing. But as the commander, he didn't have to have allegiance to one or other squadron, presumably. And he had, because he's the wing commander, he could have his personal initials on the fuselage, which is why that one has RH for Ronald Hay. Very interesting man. Here, the same as in Chinese at the top, of course. Here we have the frame maps. We've been over the frames, but these are the frame confirmation of the frame maps for you. The colour schemes are here. Colour call-outs, I should say, in AK, Mr. Colour and Tamiya. None of which has all of the colours. So Tamiya, actually no, Tamiya does have all the colour call-outs. I do beg your pardon. Titanium silver isn't in Mr. Colour. It probably actually is by now, but AK, not entirely sure they have a titanium colour. But anyway, these are the colours and those are the recommended ones that you can use. There are, of course, other ones, and you can convert these fairly straightforwardly. In particular, of course, the Tamiya ones, because Tamiya don't do a lot of these colours. So, interior green, for example, is a mixture of XF3 and XF5 in 2:1 ratio, or you can just get some interior green. The build is relatively straightforward. Cockpit first, seats, there's photo etch on the seats, and there's a really nice step-by-step guide to how to set the photo etch in, which is a nice change, and not many people are that, so they just normally worry about put them there without. This actually shows a little bit more involved way of doing it. Seat attachments, then the rest of the cockpit, the instruments obviously, assembly of the cockpit itself, cockpit walls. If you're doing a wing fold, you need to drill these 0.7mm holes in there, presumably for braces for the wings. Rear fuselage has the tail hook assembly, so it's up or down, you choose which you like, and it all goes together. Then there are cover pieces, kind of nice really. Most of them, not all of them, most of them are single molds, so you don't have a line. This one here, you have a line on this one, don't have a line on that one because it's a single piece. And these two as well are single pieces, so that's kind of nice that you don't have to get rid of the mold lines except on this little bit here, which may or may not have actually been a line anyway, because it looks like it's got hinges. I'll need to do some research on that. Engine construction, relatively basic engine, 2 banks of 9 cylinders each. Exhaust collectors here, the push rods for the valve tappets here, gearing here. You could easily sort of do a little bit of wiring, I guess, to a wiring loom or something. In fact, there's probably aftermarket for it anyway. Then the next part is actually really quite clearly labelled. This, from now on, is making unfolded wings, which I'm going to do. So there you've got all the wing folded things. Now, of course, what the unfolded wings means, you can have the machine guns exposed, which is what I'm going to do. So this is really good. You can show the construction of the 650 cal 3 in each wing. Very, very good armament. All the panels, if you do or don't want to have them open. If you do have them open, the one over the guns has got bracing pieces, which is a really nice little touch that they've done that. Ailerons, wingtips and wingtip lights. Flaps, if you want them up or down, of course. And then the fuselage sits on top and the engine cover goes on. Now, you can do that, or they have a separate thing for the folded wings, which I think is really, really good, to be honest. So here, wing folded sections, this beautiful spar section, which is a bit of a game changer really for wing folds. They should all have that, in my opinion. Different panels get put on different ways. The flaps and all that are, of course, retracted for wing folds. All of the gun covers, those are all battened up because you don't want anything falling out for a start. But they're all done. And then there's the actual connections and bits and pieces. And then, of course, ultimately, the engine covers go on as well. The undercarriage is all here, whether the wings are folded or not, which is a good thing. They are all the same. There's tail wheels. There's an option on which fitting of the tail wheel you use. Here, down here. Where's it down here? There we go, down here. A fitting option there. Don't quite know why. Obviously there were more than one version, but I don't know why. Tail assembly here. You can have a bomb or an extra long-range fuel tank underneath that go underneath here. Propeller goes together quite straightforwardly and on there, and then there are some masks for the wheels and for the transparencies here. There's also a mask for the transparency in the floor. There's a window in the floor that you need, and also for the ID lights and the wing lights. And that's the instruction set. Then there is this huge sheet we saw earlier with the markings, the layout of the camouflage, where the decals go, the national decals and all that. There's only a handful of other bits and pieces on there. Very, very little in the way of stencils. There's one tiny one there on the gear, probably mean get out of the way. The rest of, there are actually no other stencils, which is quite unusual for an American aircraft. To be honest, there's a few on the top here, but really not very many at all. As I say, the colour layout is, they say, medium sea grey and grey olive brown and armour light green, things like that. This is going to be, is it really medium sea grey? If it's that light, then that's going to presumably be, I would have thought that would be extra dark sea grey, would be the routine for the Fleet Air Arm, with Sky Type S underneath, extra dark sea grey and dark slate grey on top. I will do some research on that though, in case it's slate grey and dark sea grey, like the lower wing on a swordfish or a sea gladiator was lighter than the top wing. It does look like quite light there, but I really need to check that out, because I really don't think they flew in those markings. I think that's extra dark sea grey and dark slate grey. My humble opinion. See, now on this side we've got dark sea grey and blue grey that they're claiming. So blue grey, I'm guessing, is ocean grey. And then they're saying dark sea grey would go with ocean grey. I mean, ocean grey would normally go with dark green or with slate grey. Again, Need to check the references on that. Not entirely 100% convinced by those. Definitely Sky Type S underneath. There's that little window I was talking about earlier that gets masked off. There's an ID light there. There's 3 coloured ID lights there, and the wingtip lights. They all need some protection as well. If you're going to spoil, put them on right at the end, one or the other. Bombs and extra fuel tanks here as well. This is Ronald Hayes aircraft, of course. There is a very fine looking kit. For the scale, I think it's some of the best moulding I've seen. And although the panel lines and rivet detail do look a little overemphasised, I think it will work when it's all painted up, and there is some weathering going on as well. Now, if you enjoyed the video, please remember, let YouTube know by subscribing to the channel, by giving the video the imperial thumbs up, and by hitting the notification bell. Thank you so much for watching today, and goodbye.